Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of NWN a Night's Adventure Series number 12, Prophet Chapter 3, That Which is Destined. We are in Norrinshire, apparently. We spent a year traveling the countryside and have returned to Norrinshire after awaking from our dream, and we have to speak to Drobim.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Can you tell me if there's been any trouble here recently? Trouble? Oh yes, there's lots of trouble. Those chickens keep getting loose and go pooping in my flowers, and someone has taken my spectacles again. I tell you, it's that rascal Rigrin Wistypocky. He's always playing pranks. No, I mean, has there been any violence? What? What on earth are you talking about, young woman? Has anyone attacked the town in recent days? Attack Norrinshire? Good heavens, no. Why would anyone attack us here? I don't know. Well then stop your worries. If you'll excuse me now, I must go. I'm a very busy man, you see. Very well, I will go.
Goodbye.
I'm not done, actually.
Hello.
Can you tell me what this is? Show him the stone ring fragment. What is what? This stone fragment. It seems to be covered with some runes. What stone fragment? What runes? He squints at your hands. What do you think? I don't see anything. You don't see it? It's right there in front of your face. Nonsense. Your hands are empty. How can you not see this thing? I think you had better leave. Very well, I will go.
Goodbye.
This is very strange indeed. This stone fragment I have found among the halflings seemed to be invisible to them. They deny seeing it even when I hold it in front of their faces. Could they be lying to me? What is this thing? It appears to be a piece of a large stone ring, one of 4, I would say. I need to find the other fragments. I'm sure they're here, hidden within Norrinshire. Alright, I found one here already. It's back here. Where is there another house that I haven't been? This one, perhaps? And there was nothing in here. Where could the last stone fragment be? Are they lying to me? I can't wait to figure out what's going on here, because this is interesting as heck. I'm gonna have to case all the houses again. I think I found a piece in here, though. Yeah, it was in that crate with the thieves' tool. +10. Alright, so a piece has been found here. I didn't check the loot and logger. Well, I think I did, but there was nothing in here. Maybe there's a door going to another section. There's not. In this home? Did I find one in here? I bet the last piece is in here. Aha. This is where I haven't looked. 34 gold. There it is. The ring The stone fragments complete a ring and vanish in an instant. You hear a woman's voice. I am waiting for you, Karini Kovaleski. Meet me upon the western road. Where is this ring that created? Interesting. Meet me on the western road. Your heart sinks when you see a being standing on the hill. It's fate. Warm winds, Karini Kovaleski. So gently they bring you back to my doorstep. You, what are you doing here? Did you truly believe that you could escape me? So this is all a dream after all, isn't it? Of course, but indeed it is a beautiful one. She looks with admiration on the gentle valley. I can understand why you chose this to be your denial. That entire year, all of those adventures, false? Yes, all of those adventures were just attempts to distract your mind from the truth that you knew deep inside. I suppose I knew this all along. I suppose I knew it was too good to be true. You are learning, my daughter, but there is still much that you do not know. What? What don't I know? You cannot even begin to appreciate all of the things that you do not know, Karini Kovaleski, that you cannot know. You are like a child peeking through a tiny keyhole at a great library, only barely able to make out some words on the covers of a few books. But there are thousands upon thousands of books held therein. The shape of the world is forever beyond your sight. We shall see. Ha 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 ha. What do you want? What do you want from me? I would ask you something, Karini Kovaleski. You want to ask me something? What is the measure of a woman's life? What is the meaning of her existence? Its meaning comes from the purpose behind her actions, from the will that guides the hand. And if those actions do not yield the expected consequences, does the goodness of the will depend on the intention or the end? It is the intention that matters. And tell me, prophet, who is the greater fool, she who knows herself a fool or she who believes herself a sage? It is always wise to be aware of one's own limitations. Yes, and she who acts without understanding the consequences is guilty of them just the same. Only through knowledge can your actions be moral, but the knowledge of mortals is never more than a sliver of the truth. So what are you saying, that our actions cannot be moral? No, I am saying that the purpose you wish to ascribe to your actions is not what makes them moral or immoral. The great chasm of ignorance between intention and consequence renders intention a fool's game, a blind man throwing dice. No, the root of your morality lies not with your intentions. Then where does it lie? All of your actions, the tiniest movement, the quiet whispered word, they are all part of a great and varied tapestry. That is where the meaning comes from. Each act is placed to support the whole, and it is the placement that defines the act. But if it is as you say, then all of the acts are preordained. None of my actions are truly mine. That is correct, but it makes them no less moral or immoral, no less meaningful to the eyes of time. So you mean my actions are moral or immoral even though they have been preordained by a higher power? Yes, and the sum of all your acts, that is the measure of your life. That is the meaning of your existence. That is what you must accept. Why are you telling me all this? Because I want you to look within your heart. To be persuaded is to allow yourself to look within, and there it is your answer to your question that you shall find. So you ask me this because you already know what I will say. You just want me to say it. Yes. Very well. Then now I have questions for you. Ask your questions. So there is no free will. Are all of our actions indeed preordained? She shakes her head in disappointment. Free will? Such a naive concept. How can you say it is a naive concept? Because it is meaningless. It's a fallacy born from limited perspective regarding the passage of time. Explain. Consider this feather, she holds up a bird's feather. If I release it, it may fall to the ground along one of 1,000 possible trajectories. It could land at my feet or at yours, or it could be carried by the wind for 100 yards. Right, so what? In principle, its path could unfold in 1,000 different ways, but you and I both know that it will in fact unfold in only one way. So observe. She releases the feather and it lands at your feet. You pick up the feather. The universe could potentially unfold in 1,000 different ways, but it only does unfold in one way. You understand this, don't you? Of course. Then understand that the difference between what could have happened and what did happen is only an illusion. It only exists within the minds of those like you who travel through the time from the past to the future. But what about the choices that I make? They, like the feather, follow the laws of causality. They are a product of the history from which you come and of the purpose toward which you travel. Would you have it any other way? Would you prefer your choices to be random? No, I want my actions to mean something. And they do, Karini Kovaleski, they do. But they are merely your playthings. What point is there in being merely a puppet? You are not my puppet, Karini Kovaleski. I am not the one who chooses the shape of time. I am its consequence, not its master. Then who is its master? You have it backwards. Time is the master of us all. You are silent for a moment, considering her words deeply. Let me ask you something else. Was it indeed my future self with whom I spoke within that dream? Was it truly she who deceived me? Yes, it was she. But why? Why would I do such a thing? Deep inside your heavy heart, part of you already knows the reason. Part of you already understands. Then tell me. No, your conscious mind is not yet ready for that burden. You still have much to learn, Karini Kovaleski. I want to ask you something else. The Harazars found a way to defeat you, didn't they? What they found is nothing more than what you found here. She gestures at your surroundings. Nothing but denial. So their plan failed? Their real plan was not to defeat me, Karini Kovaleski. Their real plan was to build a fortress of denial so great that they themselves could believe it, to hide within it and to die in the belief that it gave meaning to their lives. What? They were just trying to deceive themselves? Yes, those among them who truly knew the truth that fate cannot be defeated. But for their brethren they created a mythology in which the acts of mortals can remake creation, as if the paintings of a man can reshape the canvas it lies upon. But why? Why did they do it? To understand that, recall the question I asked you earlier. You mean whether the meaning of an act comes from the intention behind it or from its outcome? Yes, the Harazars insisted that meaning can only come from purpose, from the intention of the actor himself. They refused to believe that true meaning comes from the placement of the act among all the events of creation. Go on. This belief could not stand against the facts of their own existence, facts they themselves discovered and cataloged within their great libraries, and instead of abandoning their belief, they chose to abandon their existence. They destroyed themselves. Yes, they sacrificed everything. They burned their books, destroyed the fruits of centuries of labor, murdered their own children, poisoned the very earth upon which they lived, and finally killed themselves, all to build a legend that would someday ruin all the world. The legend of the century of sorrow? Yes, and in the 1,000 years since their destruction, that legend grew so as to become reality. All the pieces were in place, waiting for me. Yes, you are their final sacrifice. You are the one who completes their deception. But why me? Why did they not destroy the Penteract themselves? Because that would not serve their delusion. The act of unmaking had to be far from the days of their existence. It had to be sufficiently distant in the future that none of their prophets could see its failure. So all of this was for nothing? All of this suffering for the sake of a plan that was doomed to fail? There is no greater folly than the folly of those who refuse to accept the reality around them. But if the Harazars knew their plan would fail, why did they still do it? Because by doing it, by crafting it with such care, by making all those terrible sacrifices, they convinced themselves that it would succeed. Their fortress of denial was complete. Gods, this is horrible. Yes, I am so sorry, Karini Kovaleski, so sorry for all of you, but there is nothing you can do but continue upon your path. And how am I to do that? You must reject this denial. You must throw away its blindfold. Come, take my hand. I will lead you onward to your destiny. She extends her hand. And what is my destiny? She shakes her head. Many pages are still left in that tale, Karini Kovaleski. There's only one way to know it. Come. No, I still have other questions. Ask your questions. Is this your dream? No, Karini Kovaleski, I do not dream. Then whose dream is it? Who would dream of such a place? Who would invent it in their soul? I would. Indeed you would. So this is my dream. Only a truly gifted mind could be capable of such self-deception. So you are saying that part of me has created this delusion to comfort the rest of my soul? Every dream is part wish and part fear, part horror and part comfort. Has my soul splintered into pieces like that of Kurathon? Am I descending into madness? The souls of mortals are fragile things. They can crack under much lesser weight than the one you carry. Perhaps I should welcome this. Perhaps I should allow myself to succumb. No, I cannot allow that. I have to keep my sanity. Then you must leave this dream behind you. You must abandon this peaceful delusion and continue your journey. How? How can I leave this dream? Come, take my hand. Take her hand. Acquired item, the Scepter of Lore. The Labyrinth of Dreams. Corridor appears to extend into infinity. Luminous being. You have never seen the likes of this being. At first it appears as a tall, thin woman wearing a tight-fitting full-length dress. However, you quickly realize that her face is a hollow porcelain mask behind which is nothing but a pale ball of light. The creature is as still as stone as it gazes at you without expression. What are you? The blank face is literally still without the slightest hint of emotion. Where am I? The empty eyes look down upon you. Can you understand me? There is something unfathomably cruel about the motionless face. What is going on here? Without making the slightest sound, the creature turns. Slowly it begins to glide along the great corridor. Here within this glorious hall, a mysterious giant is working on a massive and bizarre sculpture. The sculptor. The blank face is utterly still without the slightest hint of emotion. Who is that man? The creature looks at the sculptor. What is he making? The face is motionless, and yet something about expression suggests a terrible, bottomless hatred. What is the matter? The empty eyes turn back to you. Why have you brought me here? There is no response. What do you want? You suddenly realize it is waiting for you to say something. What? What do you want me to say? It waits. I want to leave this dream. I'm not afraid anymore. I want to know the truth. Luminous being waits patiently for your next words. I want to meet my fate. The world around you fades. Of hunger. You are overcome with a terrible hunger. A hunger of flesh and blood. And I'm not controlling it. She's just walking. The game is doing this. Uh-oh, you better run, commoner. You did. They're all dead. 100 XP gained of vengeance. What did that say? The walls of this room are adorned with 100 mournful faces. Cradle killed Karoline Kovaleski. You hear a voice. Only through death can you venture forth. Oh, some lag. I want to see you burn. I'll light up a cigarette here in the meantime. Don't be a coward. Now let's get it in. corn wolves again. I need a ring of regen. Oh, do they keep coming? Here's where you die. The gravestone said, this is where you must die. Two gargoyles playing chess or checkers with a skull with a candle in it. Do you remember yet? Do you understand? So long I have waited. For many years I have prayed to see you again in my dream. Whose room is this? Hooded man. I thought you would have the answer. I thought you could still save them. But you did not return. Some being sitting on a throne. And so they died like so many others. There is a dead child inside the cradle. You watched from on high with sad eyes, claiming remorse. But do you know what it is to suffer through this? Do you know what it is to live our pain? Step forward and be judged. This is wild. What is the most horrible thing you can imagine? Skullhead key. These bones are very small, like the bones of an infant. They appear to have been chewed upon quite recently. Even holding them in your hand makes you feel a crushing guilt. If broken, the bones will emanate a sound of unspeakable sorrow, only usable by chaotic evil. Which we are not. Now you know my pain. Just one more step. $10,598 gold.
I will not let you do this!
I'm dazed. I don't know if I'm supposed to win this. Grief will kill us. Okay. There's a hand on each side. Alexar Tigarian stands before you. My blood calls for yours, and it will be satisfied. Oh, voice acting. Alexar, what is going on? At last you have returned to my nightmares. Unmaker. Unmaker, what do you... Oh, so you know who I am.
Yes.
I know who you are, and I know what you've done. What do you think I have done?
You doomed us all.
You have brought about this century of sorrow. No, please, you must understand. Or how do you know this? Never mind how I know. Did you think you could keep this truth hidden from the world? Did you think you could avoid justice by escaping into dreams? I am not trying to escape. I want to find a way to stop all of this. It's too late to stop it. There's no hope anymore, only vengeance. 1 second. Please believe me, Alexar. I didn't know what I was doing. I was deceived. Ignorance is no excuse for a sin such as yours. It transcends the laws of all laws of responsibility. Have you not seen the oceans of blood that lie in the wake of your footsteps? Yes, I have seen the consequences of my act. I have witnessed it all through an endless string of nightmares. But you have not lived through it. You have not smelled the burning flesh of the damned, have not felt the dishonor of retreat. You have not seen your wife perish and rise again to devour. To devour what? My son, her own child. You soulless monster, did you not see what was in that crib? Oh, gods. Yes, breathe deep of all the horrors you have unleashed upon us all. I am so sorry. I do not want your apologies, Unmaker. But how did you survive that battle, the one I saw in your dream? I listened to you. I heeded your warning in that dream, and in the thick of battle I retreated to safety. It has been my greatest shame. And what happened next? Next, my kingdom fell. The army of the undead swept over us like a flood. My father died upon the battlefield, and my family... Go on.
No.
I am not here to entertain you with my grief. Then what do you want? I want to know why you did it. Why did you cast us all into this hell? I tell you, I was deceived. I had no idea what was going on. But it was you who was the deceiver. Do not pretend innocence. How do you know this? That is not your concern. Now tell me, why will you do this? I have no idea. You must believe me. You lie. Admit your guilt. I will not. I tell you I am innocent. Then let your soul rot for an eternity, Unmaker. This dream is only the beginning of my vengeance. What do you mean? This is only a prelude to your suffering. On guard! He draws out a fearsome sword. Prepare to fight, he attacks. Well, he gets a lot of attacks. Dead. Until the dream fades. The dreamer died until the dream fades. You find yourself in a gigantic library filled with ghostly whispers. Great Tome. The Great Tome is held open in the arms of an ominous stone statue. Read the open page. Chapter 1, The First Decade and the Plagues of Akabon. In the 957th year of the Amun-Sung dynasty, a plague did descend upon the great kingdom of Akabon. This plague of madness and disease came to be known as the Wailing Death. From the desert it spread like a sandstorm carried by the anger of gods. 100 mad souls escaping from the death that took Hirathanum, they brought their doom to share with all of the world. For the water that once gave life in the desert now drew death from all. The lips of the dying spoke of poisoned air filled with the screams of madness. Thus the mercy of Liet turned away from his people. But why? What affront did they perpetrate to anger him thus? That even the greatest scholars and sages cannot tell. The mystery has died with the city that spawned it, and now lies buried beneath 100 years of sand. But those who sought to escape his wrath only brought it to share with their brethren, and so the plague spread all along the great desert routes, until no Akabari city remained that was not filled with the wailing. The emirs fell into cruelty of desperation. Warriors scoured door to door, executing all who showed signs of the disease, but the warriors only spread the plague further with each victim they put to death. Soon entire cities burned, while armies stood outside, cold of eye, murdering any who sought escape. The lot itself was abandoned in the name of survival. But it was all for naught, for when the plague at last fell under the flash of scimitars, so a new destruction was visited upon the land. From the north, from Sardathia, an army came, not in aid but in conquest, in revenge, for the Sardathians had never forgotten their enslavement by the devotees of Liet many years ago, and this time their vengeance would be final. And so, after 37 centuries of glory, the great desert kingdom finally exhaled its last breath. All things must come to an end, all things, even legends. Turn the page. You cannot. The page is as heavy as the memories it describes. Leave the book. What are these little waterfalls? Bench. The Great Tome is held open. Read the open page. Chapter 2, The Second Decade and the Portents of Doom. Those alive today can still remember the silence that came before the storm, that which has come to be known as the last decade of peace. It was a time of prosperity, even optimism. A golden age came to Sardathia, who finally mended its wounds after the final conquest of its ancient enemy. Trade with Valyria and the elves of Lunatharn flourished, and sages and scholars traveled the lands exchanging gifts of wisdom. But not all were so blind to the waning of the earth. Not all were content to look upon the surface and ignore the signs of the sickness festering beneath it all. The elves were the first to sense the signs. Attuned as they are to the pulse of life, they listened to the breath of trees and heard its gasps. With each year, shorter, more labored with the heartbeat of the world, just a few minutes less per year at first, but enough to draw the watchful eyes. And while concern grew among the forest, none knew the cause of the affliction. The priests of Thalil were the second to perceive the coming of the end. In Lotharian year 1408, on Midsummer's Day, the day of cloudless skies, and indeed, as always, the sky was clear and the sun streaked through it unfettered. But it was smaller, just a fraction of an angle, a scratch in their instruments, but smaller. At first they did not believe. They furrowed their brows and checked again each measurement. Each year the angle became still more acute. Each year the difference grew, at first only to the sharpest eye, but still without denial. And so for 50 years the priests of Talil have kept their records, as if meticulous devotion to recording the death of the sun could do anything to forestall it. You cannot turn the page. Chapter 3, the third decade and the rising tide. It began in the tombs of silent Akaban, beneath the old temples of forsaken justice. A second plague did stir among the bones, a tide that would wash across all the world. For a year it was not even known. Unheard were the quiet moans, unheard were the weak scratches upon the inner lid of the sarcophagus. And at first it was seen as a miracle. Those who left now were now returned. The soul was welcome again into its fleshy home. But soon the horror would be known, for the soul was not made whole. It was without reason, without compassion, only hunger, a great ravenous hunger that could not be sated or appeased. And so the dead did rise against the living. At first only the most recent corpses shambled from their graves, but in time all the coffins began to shatter, all the stone doors of tombs to slide open. Soon the panic spread to oppressor and oppressed alike, and a great tide of refugees flooded northward, abandoning the ancient desert cities forever, and thus came to end the golden age of Sardathia. Wow. We really caused some suffering. But it wasn't our fault. Wooden barricade. Chapter 4, the fourth decade in the storm from the east. In the year 1421, Lotharian reckoning, a warlord rose among the eastern tribes, or Loethan return, I forget, LR. A warlord rose among the eastern tribes of the Juntar Plains, a warrior such as not been seen in centuries, more fearsome even than the legendary Thrall. He came to be known as Vrashkai the Invincible. In 3 years, the hordes of Vrashkai conquered all of the great Juntar tribes and united them all beneath his black banner, and his words echoed across the eastern plains like the thunder of a coming storm. It was not long before the Juntar hordes turned their eyes to the west, to the great expanse of fields and forests that was the kingdom of Valyria, and at the word of their indomitable Khan, they raged as one upon the stalwart watch. First they fell upon the watchmen at Thalmark and overwhelmed them with their forces. Thus unchecked, they spilled westward over Irvin glades, slaughtering all in their path. Despite the hurried efforts to mount a defense, within days the villages of Kieranhold and Flagmere were conquered and put to the flame, and none were spared. Only in Groenheld was the enemy held back long enough for the townsfolk to flee to safety. At last the advancing horde was held at Marburg Keep by the Valyrian army and at the edge of the Linlithorn by the elves. But all of northeastern Valyria lay in ruins. All of its valleys rang with the howl of the men with the hearts of wolves. Chapter 5, the fifth decade in the fall of Sardathia. The dead of Akaban were not content to merely reclaim their lost kingdom, for vengeance begets vengeance, and the expanding spiral, once released, can never be tamed. The plague of the dead began moving northward, slowly at first, and easily held back by the spears of the legionnaires, but the first swells of the rising tide are followed by greater ones, until no shield or spell can hold back its power. A call was made for heroes to travel to the land of the dead to learn of the source of this terrible threat, but few of the brave ever returned, and those who did brought no answers. The sages of Sardathia would not agree on the nature of their enemy. Was it a curse spoken by some vile Akabari priest? Was it some evil released by the invasion decades before? Was it related to the wailing death that spread from the depths of the desert? No answers came, no solutions appeared, and though the legions of Sardathia fought with dignity and courage, it soon became clear that their cause was ultimately without hope. The army of the undead was just too great, and still worse, those who fell in trying to fight against and soon themselves rose to join its ranks. And so in the year 1437 LR, King Targaryen himself rode out to meet his enemy. Trumpets rang with the call to parley, but they were unanswered. The dead have no emissary, no general, no emperor to appease with trinkets and promises. King Targaryen. A battle ensued then, and King Zardos Targaryen was slain. In the fury of grief, his son Alexar brought together the 7 legions and led them against the enemy. Like a spear, they cut through the undead army and shattered it into fractured gangs. But so many were lost in the battle that they too rose against the kingdom, and it was not long before the undead throng was whole once again. By the end of the decade, the defenses of the kingdom fell. The army of the undead poured over Sardathia, forcing all to flee northward into the forest of Lyn-Tharn. But in their desperation, the fleeing men and women forgot all reason and fought against the elven stewards of the forest. Many lives were lost on both sides before the Sardathians were defeated. In the end, the elves took pity upon the conquered invaders and allowed them to take shelter within the southern wood and upon the slopes of the Daltharim, and thus the once glorious kingdom of Sardathia was now reduced to a few scattered groups of shamed refugees. Wow. This is wild stuff. Door. Alright, we're going to save here. As much as I want to continue. It's been a positive episode 5. Next episode we head through the mysterious door in the library. Much love, peace, joy, and light to your life. I will see you in the next one. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. And hope you're having fun. Peace.